We had a trauma a number of years ago in our family, and it involved my husband and 3 daughters. And the tricky part is that it happened in one of the most sacred places of a person's life, which is in their home.
We can't talk about our program without talking about the realities that many children are sexually abused in our country. 1 out of 4 girls and 1 out of 5 to 7 boys will be sexually abused by the time they're 18.
It's frustrating that there's this perception that sexual abuse doesn't happen in Fort Collins, that this is a perfect community, and yet it does.
You're absolutely in a position of, this cannot be happening to me. This cannot be happening to my family.
I've had adults tell me this. If you opened me up, it would just be black.
I can remember sitting in my office and looking at the clock at 1 o'clock and looking away for a moment and looking back at it, and it was 4 o'clock. I'd sat there for 3 hours in total shock of what was going on.
Somebody described child sexual abuse as an assault on a person's soul.
And I didn't understand the ramifications, short-term and long-term, for our family when it first happened.
One thing that I often tell my clients is, my wish for you is that you would see in yourself what I see in you when you walk in the door and it feels like things are really dark. And I see, wow, how are you still standing?
I didn't really know who could help me make sense of it or help my daughters make sense of what had happened in their lives.
Oftentimes, victims come to us with a myriad of symptoms: fear, anxiety, hyperarousal, which means that the child can't calm themselves down. Also, a lot of guilt and shame, self-loathing, poor self-esteem, and a lack of trust in adults. And talking about their child sexual abuse is probably the most difficult thing that a person can do.
ChildSafe was a godsend for our family, where we needed a place of solace, a place of trust, but we also needed the hardcore experts who understood the issues and understood the problems and understood our feelings, most importantly. And those feelings were confused. ChildSafe was there for every one of our different needs. My middle daughter had a wonderful counselor who worked with people that had a hard time coping with it and were in denial and really didn't want counseling. And my 3rd daughter wanted more education, and so they helped her in a different way. The youngest one had the play therapy, and she started opening up and learning how to talk.
Children are not little adults. They don't process the same way adults do. We process by talking things through and figuring things out. Well, they process by using their bodies and by using play, because that's the language of children. And so instead of words, they use toys.
Children use these toys as a way to process their traumatic experiences through the use of play and metaphor. They typically do this by directing the play so that they rewrite their story to create a different ending, an ending that gives them strength and courage and power to defeat the bad. I always tell people that the stories are obviously hard, but the children are wonderful.
They don't do it for you, and that's probably the beauty of it and the power of it as well, is they help you get from point A to point B and further.
People on the outside look at victims and think, oh, you know, they're ruined, they're damaged for life, and that is not the case. They can heal and they can work through awful things that have happened to them, and they can come out the other side and be happy, healthy, productive people.
I think the power of what ChildSafe has given our family is to see life beautiful again. You've come out of something ugly that you had no intention of moving into, and you can leave that ugly behind and become healthy and whole. And you can form relationships that are healthy and whole, and you can develop trust that's healthy and whole, and you can love again.
That's the goal. That is what we are here for. And if we don't do our jobs well, then that child is going to have lots of problems in the future. And then that takes a toll on that victim, their children, the greater society. It's far-reaching.
I went from the shock in my office through seeing my daughters with ChildSafe help being able to move forward. They went on and they got college degrees. They developed healthy relationships. They could make sense of what had happened in their home. They're giving back to others. They're powerful women in a really good way.